Welcome back to the World History Channel. Today we embark on a journey forged in exile, loyalty, and fire, a story of warriors who left their homeland behind to fight under foreign flags. This is the tale of the Irish Brigade, and it begins on a storm-lashed coast where destiny met desperation. As the winds howled and the sea roared, a group of determined Irish soldiers boarded French ships, their faces etched with the pain of defeat and the hope of redemption. The 17th century had not been kind to them. Defeated in the Williamite War, stripped of their lands and outlawed in their own country, these men had a choice: surrender their swords or find new battles abroad. They chose the latter. This moment, captured in an ultra-realistic image of ships rocking in a stormy harbor, marks the beginning of a saga written in blood and honor. Among the first to rise in their new French uniforms was a soldier draped in green, his gaze fierce. A smoky battlefield behind him. The year was 1690, and the Irish Brigade was forming its identity. These men didn't just fight, they became symbols of resilience. Their loyalty to France wasn't born of politics, but of purpose. They would prove themselves time and time again on foreign soil. Nowhere was this more evident than at the legendary Battle of Fontenoy in 1745. Imagine the chaos, the thunder of cannons, the clash of steel, and the Irish Brigade charging headlong into the British lines, bayonets glinting. It was a brutal, unforgettable moment, and the Irish were heroes that day. Their charge turned the tide of battle. The French court would never forget the Irish blood spilled for their cause, but behind every hero was a human. A young drummer. Boy, covered in dirt and gunpowder, his eyes filled with fear and courage, beat the rhythm of battle into the hearts of soldiers twice his age. Before every assault, men clutched rosaries, whispering prayers beneath dawn's first light. With the French and Irish flags fluttering side by side, they found spiritual strength in the face of mortal danger. Their reputation reached the gilded gardens of Versailles, where Irish officers stood proudly in royal court uniforms. No longer nameless exiles, they were warriors recognized by kings. Yet their minds were never far from home. Maps marked their journey from the hills of Ireland to the battlegrounds of Europe. Each line on the map told a story of sacrifice and survival. Alliances were sealed not just with ink, but with blood. On smoke-covered fields, French cavalry officers shook hands with Irish commanders, bonds forged in war, mutual respect carved into every gesture. In the heat of combat, Irish soldiers raised the white fleur-de-lis flag amid cannon fire, a symbol of loyalty and fierce determination, and when battles raged on the muddy fields of Flanders, it was the tattered Irish regimental banner that still flew high. Torn, burned, and soaked in rain, it stood tall as a beacon of undying spirit. That banner didn't just represent a regiment. It represented every Irishman who chose exile over surrender, honor over defeat. This was the rise of the Irish Brigade. In France, a beginning shaped by loss, fueled by courage, and remembered in glory. After proving their mettle on the fields of France, the Irish Brigade turned their gaze south, answering a new call to arms. Spain, embroiled in conflicts across Europe and the Americas, welcomed these hardened warriors with open arms and royal honors. In the grand halls of the Spanish court, beneath chandeliers and gilded Baroque ceilings, Irish officers stood tall in their decorated 18th century uniforms. Medals were pinned to their chests, emblems of valor, loyalty, and sacrifice. These weren't just mercenaries anymore. They were heroes of a new kingdom, warriors whose legend was spreading beyond borders, but honor in court came at the price of blood in battle. As invading forces threatened the Spanish frontier, the Irish Brigade was sent to defend a hilltop fort glowing in the last rays of dusk. Surrounded by fire and grit, they fought with relentless courage, holding their ground. With muskets blazing, the craggy heights became a symbol of Irish defiance, not just against enemies, but against history itself. The march through the Spanish countryside was long and unforgiving. Dust clung to their uniforms, but their pikes and muskets never wavered. Through vineyards, valleys, and war-torn villages, they pressed forward, an unstoppable force of discipline and unity. Their every step echoed the oath they once took, to fight for the cause of justice. Even in foreign lands, in the quiet between battles, there was a different kind of war being fought, the inner one. A bearded Irish-Spanish soldier sat alone. By candlelight, polishing his sword, the flickering flame reflecting in eyes weathered by conflict. Each scratch on the blade told a story. Each breath was a memory of home, of Ireland, of the friends who never made it this far. At the harbors of Spain. Irish mercenaries worked alongside local soldiers, unloading crates of weapons and sacks of provisions. These ports, once unfamiliar, had become the lifeline of war. Here, strategy met survival. Ships carried not just cargo, but stories of courage, loss, and brotherhood forged across nations. In the dense fog of a battlefield, a standoff erupted. Irish-led Spanish troops squared off against British forces. Muskets snapped, commands were shouted, and the air grew thick with smoke and tension. The enemy may have seen foreign uniforms, but the fire behind those Irish eyes had never changed. They were still fighting old battles, just on new soil, amid the chaos. An Irish captain on horseback rode through a ruined Spanish village, flags fluttering behind him in a haze of smoke. His voice cut through the cannon fire, rallying his men once more. Behind him, the Irish Brigade manned the heavy guns, sparks bursting as cannonballs flew through the air. The roar of war was deafening, but it was here that legends were forged. At night, one soldier sat in silence, writing a letter home with a feathered quill. The candle trembled as his hand moved across the paper. He wrote of battles, of honor, of the strange warmth of a foreign sky, and of the ache in his chest that no victory could erase. And finally, there they stood, immortalized in oil and memory. Group of Irish commanders who had fought in both French and Spanish service. Their portraits hang not just in museums, but in the halls of history. They were warriors without a homeland, yet they built legacies that would never die. Centuries have passed since the Irish Brigade last marched into battle, but their memory stands tall, carved in bronze and etched into the soil of Europe. In the heart of France or Spain, a modern-day statue of an Irish Brigade hero gazes into the distance, flowers carefully laid at its base. Above, a brooding sky reminds us that history is never far away. This is more than stone. It's a silent salute to men who crossed seas and gave their lives for causes greater than themselves. Far from the grand cities and museums, in a quiet Irish graveyard, a weathered headstone reads, "Fallen in foreign fields, Irish Brigade." Mist clings to the grass and the air is still. Here lies no name, but every name. Each fallen warrior, whether buried under Spanish sun or French soil, is remembered by the land that bore them. Side by side, the flags of Ireland and Spain flutter. In the breeze, with faint images of historic figures rising behind them, a visual tapestry of unity, sacrifice, and shared struggle. These alliances were not born of convenience but of courage. The Irish Brigade became a bridge between nations, bound by bloodshed and honor. The story began with sorrow. A stunning oil painting recreates the departure of the wild geese Irish. Soldiers leaving their homeland in the shadow of defeat. Their faces are downcast, their shoulders heavy, but their eyes burn with defiance. It was dusk when they sailed, not just into exile, but into legend. In a quiet European museum, a battle-worn Irish flag is encased in glass. Its fabric is torn, colors faded, but its presence speaks volumes. Visitors pause in reverent silence, absorbing the weight of what this relic represents, not just war, but identity, memory, and pride across battlefields in France and Spain. Descendants of those original warriors now walk the same paths, lay wreaths on forgotten graves, and whisper stories to the wind. Their faces reflect emotion, a connection that time has not erased. For these descendants, the past is not distant. It's alive in every stone and echo. In richly illustrated books, the uniforms and weapons of the Irish Brigade are meticulously documented: green tunics, shining sabers, muskets worn smooth by war. Each item, each detail, helps breathe life back into a chapter of history that refuses to fade. Digital timelines stretch across screens, marking every key battle the Irish Brigade fought: Fontenoy, Cremona, Almanza, and more. Portraits and maps reveal the scale of their journey, a testament to just how far these men traveled, and how deeply they impacted the world around them. And as the final scene unfolds, ghostly silhouettes of Irish warriors march into a glowing mist. Their figures blur with the light, but their presence remains powerful. They are not forgotten. They are eternal. A final image forms, a breathtaking collage of banners, faces, swords, and sacred soil. The journey of the Irish Brigade is complete. From exile to empire, from battlefield to memory, they carved their legacy not just in history books, but in the very soul of Europe.